Welcome on in, everyone, to the LCS Challengers League. We are here in the spring playoffs. I'm Mazel. I'm joined by Kangas, and I've got Joshi with me. Maybe you got Pedro Pascal somewhere around here. Yeah. Well, I was hoping for Pedro Pascal, but I got Joshi. I got LCS casters here with me, Kangas and Joshi. But it is a fun day because we got our top fight for top 4 here, guys, and it's going to be a very fun day. Kangas, how you doing?
I'm feeling good. I know Joshi was about to say, is that LPL caster Mazel, so that you're included.
Yeah,
in that,
nope,
so
I'm not going to let you.
Just keep going. I'll finish that for you. No, this is the last day of best of 3s. It's all best of 5s from here. I'm so pumped for that. The season has gone by so quick. The only downside is that means that we're saying goodbye to teams, and that is sad that we have to bid
not here, though.
Not here.
We're good.
Yeah, not us. It ain't us. Joshi, you good? You hanging in there? You doing okay after a long day?
Yeah, no, we're good. That is, I wanted to point to Cubby's room, but he's also not on that stream either. So, we're going to point at Canada.
All right, we're going to point to Canada. We're going to point to Canada. But now I'm going to point us towards our community tweets because we got to check in on what we've been having going on across the community. Winnie will be saying goodbye to, obviously. That's the end of our PG run. Super close final game. Regardless of the results, still super proud of the boys and our improvement. We'll show up stronger next split following the promotional tournament. Got to focus on that next. Still more games to play, and that'll be in about a month now, a little bit less than. Yeah. And final words from Winnie here.
Yeah. Also, just got to say, they did a good job. They were still the first seed going into that event.
Yeah.
But his profile picture is from a fantastic anime called Golden Kamuy. It is
okay.
All right.
It is.
Wait, what's the name of it? I didn't catch it.
Golden Kamuy.
Golden Kamuy.
Kamuy.
Right.
Okay. It is very cursed. And I think
we're going to move past it. We're going to move past it. Now we got a nice little catch-up tweet from our savior, Whooply, giving us the breakdown for the promo relegation tournament. We got our seeds in for at least our Challengers League teams, the provisional teams that will be fighting for their spots to stay alive. AoE Gold, Team Liquid Honda, Fly Fam, and then CLG Faith. We're still waiting to find out who our 5 through 8 will be, Kangas.
Yeah, the biggest things to note here is obviously the 3 LCS affiliated provisional teams that are focused most on development are in this tournament, but that doesn't mean that we expect many, if any of them, to actually get relegated. I think CLG Faith is the one that people are looking at. They kind of have the target on their backs. A lot of the qualifier teams are looking like, okay, maybe that spot is open, but even then, I'm not fully convinced based on some of the qualifier teams. So I actually wouldn't be surprised if come summer we got the same teams.
Well, we got to show out some familial love, of course. That's Paul, Wixie's dad. Hello, Paul. Great guy. Great son as well. Have no idea how long my heart is going to resist watching. I feel so sad today. I know Immortals play well, and Wixie put all of his heart as always, but it hurts a lot. But as always, as I teach them, gentlemen winning and gentlemen losing, they'll be back stronger. And you know that is true. The fight in IMTC will be there next split. You gotta have some love to send off for INTC.
Yeah. Gentlemen winning and gentlemen losing. That's a good one. I haven't heard that before. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I love parents like Paul. Again, Wixie's dad comes through, so supportive all the time. I feel like the other ones, like APA's parents. I remember Stacy, but I don't remember what his dad's name is. But either way, we still have Bradley. 3rd Medallion Dream still alive.
It's still alive.
God.
You got to change the song at that point. 3 chains if he gets it. I don't even know anymore, man.
He'll turn into a parody account. He's going to be like a Weird Owl as opposed to the original artist. Yeah.
But I actually do appreciate this because the run is still alive for TLC, a constant here in our playoffs for Proving Grounds prior and now obviously in NACL playoffs, Joshi.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting to see that Team Liquid Challengers are still in the running. They have a very tough road ahead of them, and it's interesting to see that they were one of 2 teams that were both able to upset CLG Challengers. Sorry, Steve, but we still got the Team Liquid boys. They're still coming through. They're staying strong, and we'll see if they can actually make the finals yet again.
Yeah, we will have to see. That run would be incredible. But now we also got to say goodbye to some teams as we did. Some heartbreaking ones for sure, but obviously some solidification in our playoffs. Let's go ahead and bring up some of those eliminated teams now. TSMC, AoE, IMTC, CLGC. It was a good run, but the run ends now. And we'll see you next split.
I want to give some special shout-outs to one, Hanser for TSM Challengers for pulling double duty in the LCS and the Challengers League at the very end. One of our standout players and arguably the best top in the entire league here in Challengers. And then, of course, Yusui, who stepped in at the last moment for IMT Challengers. Fortunately, didn't have a whole lot of time to showcase what they were doing, but definitely a strong contender, and hopefully we'll get to see more of them come through in the next split.
Neither of those rosters had ideal circumstances coming into the tournament, but they both made the best out of what they had. The biggest surprise here, outside of the fact that we only have bid farewell to 4 provisional teams, we still have 2 provisional teams going here, pretty cool, is that CLG Challengers are out early. This was a team that I had expected to make a run. I know a lot of people on the team, based on how, you know, other players talked about this team, based on how they perceive themselves, we expected them to at least push into like top 6. That's kind of the goalpost I had for them. So the fact that we're bidding farewell already means that they're going to have a lot to look at this offseason. They got a little bit longer of an offseason, not like crazy longer, just a couple extra weeks, but still use that time, recuperate, rest, and try and refocus for next year. That's something all of these teams should be looking at.
Let the faith rekindle, Kangas. That's what you should have gone for. No, but it is a little bit of a sad adieu, but that is where our competition lies. That's where you have to be able to perform in the moment. So goodbye to our teams. But speaking of our teams, they got a little bit rambunctious, I would say. We had some trouble on the range. I'll just say that over the weekend. So let's go ahead and check in and see what happened. Welcome to another episode of On the Range. What in tarnation? I gotta go check on the critters. By golly, the predators got out.
Uh-oh, he might be caught. Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, wait, this is Unforgiven.
Oh, my
this
God.
Is Unforgiven. You gotta remember that. He wins these.
Oh, my God.
He is gonna win this.
What?
Unforgiven.
Are you serious?
What the hell was that?
Peter, come on, get in the car. Chunk down. The rocket's landing from Manui, though. And Perry flashing forward, trying to get Ryoma. He'll take him out. No, he doesn't have the distance. But Manui, he gets the shutdowns. Maybe even a triple, but it will. Oh, God.
Looks for the kick into the skies to send. Do they have the first damage? Yes, they do. And Spawn Gale forces forward, getting revenge for the previous assassination. Winsome is now retrieved from the breath of light as they breeze down death into Winsome's back. 2v4 at the moment with the damage on the sketch, with the battle dance away from Zazel. That's going to be the equalizer utilized. But the blade caller apart CLG Faith.
Oh, I'm a little busy right now. You'll have to come back next week for On the Range. And here's some cake barbecue. Let's run!
I'm scared.
I hope the K barbecue worked. I gotta go check in on myself a little bit. Those are some dangerous predators.
I hope it worked.
We're not the same person, Kangas. What are you talking about? Come on.
That's
man.
what we're going with. Okay.
I don't know. But yeah, that was what was happening with our top 4. The Predators are loose. And speaking of, we got to take a look at our playoff bracket and look at some of those Predators as we are in our top 4 fight today. Got C9C versus Fear, Big C versus 100C in that top bracket, Joshi.
Yeah, and this is our last set of best of 3s for the entire tournament. Everything after today will be a best of 5. But, I mean, it looks like seeding's gone well, right? We have all 4 of our top 4 seeds still in the upper bracket, whereas, I mean, all these guys, we still have a bunch of killers down in the lower bracket as well. I feel as though all of our real tournament favorites are still really in contention for an opportunity to actually take the whole thing.
Honestly, even top 8, because I believe that TLC is the only one that was technically 9th seed and is still in the running here with CLG knocked out earlier. And also, I mean, that's kind of what we expected to an extent, but cool to see it still play out that way. Today, Cloud9 Fear is going to be such a fun matchup, man. Like, I cannot wait for this one to start. We've hyped it up so much, and the storyline for Fear is so exciting. I know that we're going to talk about that
Do you guys have anything in the lower bracket? Well, we'll have a lot of time to talk about the top bracket. Do you guys have anything you're kind of looking for? The wild card run there in the end, Joshi? You got anything?
I mean, I think FlyQuest Challengers are really, really good. Wildcard's going to have to find some. They're going to have to dig deep. They're going to have to play down all their outs. Another one I think is going to have to dig real deep is Team Liquid Challengers. I mean, Golden Guardians have showcased that they have been a strong contender.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one for sure. See if that 3 Chains dream is still alive for Bradley here going through. All those games on the lower bracket will be on the other stream on Path to LCS. But here, we do got to talk about our games coming up. I know you foreshadowed to it. We've got some giga bangers as C9 Challengers versus Cincinnati Fear, starting us off with the best of 3. And our second best of 3 of the day, Dignitas Challengers versus 100 Thieves Challengers, Kangas.
Yeah, the second match of the day is also exciting. I know I hyped up Cloud9 versus Fear. Both of these.
Why do you all sound so disappointed?
Top matchups.
I was just like, oh, we have Joshi here.
Because I thought I had Pedro Pascal. Would you not be disappointed too? Like,
I gotta say, you don't have Nick Cage on here either, so I think that we're all disappointed, Mazel, currently today.
Well.
Yeah. Wow, Chad's really behind Fear right now, and I think that's been a general community sentiment too. There's a lot of people rallying behind this team as they continue to run through the bracket.
Yeah, make sure you get into that chat. Spam C9C if you're a Cloud9 fan, rather. If you're a Fear fan, make sure to type it in Fear. But we do got to bring up our first rosters, show off this Cloud9 team who has been so dominant. The top of the table, Apex Predators. As Joshi, they are pretty scary indeed.
Yeah, and as you are very excited to point out, Lennon, earlier today, Lost did in fact hit rank 1 in Challengers. So that will be, that means he is the best player in all of North America. I'm pretty sure that's what that means. There's no
direct correlation.
Done. The conversation is over. Lost is, I mean, he's been looking super, super good. He's been one of our best AD carries as well down here in Challengers. And honestly, with the fact that Cloud9 coming through as our #1 team yet again, this is the first time that they've actually been looking to compete for a title in a while.
Also, it's just cool because this is the #1 provisional team versus the #1 Challengers team. I think it's important to hype that up. Cloud9 were #1 seed coming into this tournament. They have been the clear favorites. And oftentimes when we look at them, I mean, last time these teams match up against each other, it was 1-1, right? It was so close in that series. Cloud9 did take the first. We saw the debut of Diplex on Kled. It was really sick to see that. Tomio had a great series as well. In particular, I think that Tomio has been well on the engagers, but sometimes we quote him as the weak link for the team. Maybe a little too much just because Cloud9 is so good that we have to kind of look for a weakness, right? It's not to say Tomio is a bad jungler, but Team Liquid, Josh, in their game against them, Team Liquid are heavily focused on the jungle invades and trying to go for these too.
Yeah, and it is definitely something where you have to watch out. Tomio has definitely been a spot to attack on Cloud9, but it's not enough to just like attack Tomio because of how strong the rest of the lanes have been. You have to take the advantage you're picking up in the jungle and transfer it elsewhere. This is not a super jungle focused meta, it's a bot lane focused meta, and it's definitely one where Team Liquid were not able to overcome the power that Cloud9 is bringing across the table.
I think that's the thing, is you get a lot of aggression across the board, but primarily that 2v2 in the bot lane is where they try to get a lot of wins. And on the other side, when you're looking at this Cincinnati Fear roster and you have this kind of strength we've seen Manui and Trevor come into, but specifically this mid-jungle duo in Perry Shochi, this is the 5 guys in a grassroots dream journey. This is the potential run, the farthest that a semi-pro team would make it in a playoff tournament here. I think it's incredible to be able to see this team rise the way they have in a very long season that didn't always look good, Joshi.
Yeah, they definitely feel like the Jimmy Neutron kids and the Cloud9 and the Big Chicken fight against here, right? It's just like you put together things from a bunch of scrap parts, and oh my god, is it looking good. Cincinnati Fear have been the real deal across the board. And like you said, I feel as though Perry has been a player who has leveled up a ton. They were just a substitute for Dignitas Academy last year, but now they've really come on to their own, been a major shot caller, and they're the player that we're going to be looking at to lead the charge in trying to attack Tomio in the jungle.
Perry's such a unique jungler. He'll go for plays like this. And this one in particular doesn't work out the way he expects, but it still helps the team. He's like flashing to try and kill a turret before teleport comes out, baits out Rakan ult. And then moments like this, he's tracking the flankers so well. He's a jungler that seems like he reads the map better than a lot of other junglers in the league. And he's able to pivot immediately from, all right, match the flanker, go for the invade, and kind of flip that switch in his brain of what he needs to do at any given moment.
And the biggest thing is it's been a goal of theirs from the start. They want to all commit onto plays together. They want to lead through Perry's aggression, and we've seen the growth over time with that, and we'll see if they can do that against Cloud9. But speaking of this matchup, Fear, I love the moniker, right? They are the Grim Reaper, and all is all good in that fashion. They've taken out evil geniuses. They've taken out Golden Guardians. But what happens when you meet up with the monster under your bed, my man? There is a bigger Grim Reaper waiting for you at the next door, and it's a tough test for Fear. But if they do, imagine, just imagine.
Die?
Yeah, what's like the tier list of Reapers here? I didn't realize there was so much Reaper lore going
Cloud9
on.
are the best, at least apparently. But in all actuality, right, this is the conversation. We were having a heck of a run from Fear, but now they test themselves against probably the truest titan of them all in Cloud9 here, Kangas.
Yeah, but remember, they split games last time around, 1-1. This will be the decider in a way, unless, you know, whoever gets knocked into the lower bracket runs it back, and then we matches up in the finals. That could happen.
Best of 5 total for them, you know, all the way in the NOC. Do we take that into account?
Narratives. If they're the finals teams, it would be incredible.
But as we had said earlier, make sure you're spamming in chat who you think is going to win. I do believe we have our first draft ready to go. We have our battle for the top 4 today. Guys, let's have some fun.
Let's have some fun. No, we're going to have fun, Josh. You don't get to decide this, okay? We're the fun cast.
You can have fun. You can have fun. I will be miserable the entire time.
Why don't you have
just
purple
kidding.
behind you, by the way? You got blue on the one side. You got green on the other side. I don't understand what's happening with your lights.
Oh, it's just straight bias, you know. It is what it is.
Ah, okay. Well, at least
it is what it is. You know, you can have your CLGs, I can have my Cloud9s, but it is worth noting, right, that the last time these guys... Yeah, it's all green. Are you a FlyQuest fan? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, you know, I'm going to have you from green
today.
I definitely am more green. It's fine. Let's get it.
Either way. It is worth noting, right, the last time these guys did play against each other, it was with Diplex, right? It was right after MNS had moved up towards the LCS, and so this has been one of the big opportunities for Diplex to kind of showcase that they deserve another spot to play on another LCS roster. I feel as though Diplex has been one of our stronger performers, and stats-wise has been topping a lot of the charts in terms of, like, damage percentage and, like, gold per minute, everything that you really look for from a strong mid laner. Diplex has been one of our strongest contenders.
It's crazy that they went from MNS as their mid laner to Diplex as their mid laner. And honestly, like, they feel like it's just as powerful of a team. Not much has changed in the Cloud9 Challengers camp as they ban away Wukong, Seraphine, Thresh, focusing on Fear's unique bot lane and getting Perry off of Wukong. Perry has played so much Wukong because usually it's other junglers banned against him, and he's happy to grab that. So Cloud9 are putting him on something different. Fear, meanwhile, will take away some other bot lane focuses with the Lucian and the Xayah. Then Jace away from Diplex and Fake Out. They both played that one.
I mean, this has been one of the big keys to success going up against Fear, right? Because Perry has been so reliant on this Wukong. Everything else, like, he's played a fair amount of Sejuani, but the win rate on that champion has been significantly lower than on the right Monkey. And so as Cloud9 comes through yet again, we do see the Cho'Gath picked up here relatively early for Fear. Way more likely to go to Faisal than it is to Shochi at this point, but we also see an Annie coming through, and that's potentially a self-counter pick. The Cho'Gath is actually pretty strong going into the Annie itself, and it really asks the question, what version of Annie are we going to get? Is it support? Is it mid? Is it burn build? Is it burst build?
Exactly. I actually think that if the Cho'Gath is going into the mid lane, you can put the Annie into the support, but Fear can hold that final pick until the very end. If they just go for like a bot lane or a support here, and then that way they're not giving up too much information. Even the Sejuani is kind of flexible right now. We have seen it start to inch into the top lane, but with the Olaf locked in, okay, we got Faisal Olaf.
That's a lot of big, beefy characters coming out for Fear already, and the one thing that we need to pay attention to is, I mean, we've seen a lot of Manui's Seraphine so far. One of the things that you always have to keep in mind is, are they going to be able to play the Senna as well? Is that actually a Cho'Gath support? I've been hearing rumors about this for a long time.
Okay.
But it's definitely not going towards the top lane anymore. We know that this Cho'Gath is way more likely to go somewhere else, and it feels as though Fear have already kind of committed to a style that they like to play. They have this very strong front line. Now it's going to be, how are they going to support it? Where's the rest of the damage going to be coming from? And it has to come from the bottom lane.
Yeah, they need damage in this comp from this point on. Having just health bars usually is not enough to get you across that finish line. But I think it highlights how fun both of these teams are to draft as well. The fact that they are playing these mind games with us, with the audience, with each other. Some teams, I've been so critical of this. They just lock in Annie and a support with it. Cloud9 holding that. Fear now, like, okay, is it going to be the Sejuani top Olaf jungle? That's still technically an option, right? There's these different paths that they can go down, as now they have to guess what is necessary to ban. So Fear take away Kled and the Rumble. Okay, so respect to Diplex. Even Fake God can pilot that. Cloud9 focus on that bot lane. You were saying that's where Fear needs their damage.
Yeah, and I think it's definitely one of those things, right? As you know, when you look at all these drafts, we don't know where it's going, but I guarantee you the teams, they always go and just like, hey, we're going to pick this, and we're intending for it to be played by this person with the option to say, no, I really hate that matchup. I'm not doing that, right? That's always what you look at. So it definitely feels as though Fear have a lot of tools. They should definitely remember where this Cho'Gath is going to be going. Also a reminder to everybody who is watching from home, there is still a ban on Viego. Game-breaking bugs have come through, and they will be disabled for until further notice. But it is the Aphelios that is going to be coming through for Manui. And while we don't oftentimes think of Manui as the strongest AD carry in the league, his teammates are very adamant that we need to be giving this guy more respect.
And he has been having higher and higher levels of performance throughout the split, especially on things like the Xayah that he can play more safe on. It will be bringing damage to the team on Aphelios now, as Asoul is locked in for Cloud9 Challengers.
Yeah, I really like what we've been seeing coming out from this Cloud9 draft in general. You pick up this early Annie, you don't know exactly where it's going to be going, and then by banning away the Senna, they kind of force the Cho'Gath into the mid lane, and Cho'Gath really struggles to actually deal with stopping Aurelion Sol early on. The combined power of Sejuani Cho'Gath is going to be really tough to shut down this mid lane. As we see Fake God going over towards the Fiora, I mean, one of the problems that we've seen so many different teams have up against this Olaf, especially when Fiora like blinds it early on, is they don't have anything to match it, but it feels as though Cloud9 to have enough damage to just kill it if it tries to jump in.
And Fiora, if she can scale, can answer the Olaf in the side lane. Early, it can be a struggle. So if Olaf gets ahead and accelerated, that will be difficult for Fake God to deal with, but you'll reach a tipping point where now you start to come back online. And Fear go for Leona as their support. So it's really mostly just the Aphelios as consistent damage. Everything else has different roles for the team, right? Cho'Gath can get the objective secures, maybe some burst damage once they've already been poked down a little bit, as well as peel. Same with Sejuani. Olaf can run at Lost, right? That's generally your job in the fights, is get the enemy AD carry out of there. But it will come down to Manui to actually do most of the damage.
Yeah, and it's not as though Manui has an easy job of like everybody on the side of Cloud9 is going to be standing in this front-to-back style of team fight. Yeah. Cloud9 have a lot of tools to attack from a lot of different angles, and so Fear, they've been very committed to these front-to-back style team fights almost this entire split, whereas Cloud9, one of the things we've been so excited about them for is their ability to poke and prod at other teams, tear apart their battle lines, and with all the veterancy that we see coming out from this squad, going up against Fear, this is going to be the big test. It is one style versus another.
The #1 Challengers team versus the #1 Provisional team, kicking it off in the upper bracket. The loser of this match will go into the lower bracket and continue their run there, but the winner will guarantee top 4. If Fear can manage it, it'd be the highest the Provisional team in this current kind of format would make it. The last time it happened was when No Team did it back in spring 2021, but the format was very different back then. Academy teams only had like 9 games in the regular season that they played, so it was a little odd. But in this current format where we have basically the same structure, that would be a big milestone for a team like Fear to make it.
For sure. Also, we got the Proving Ground shirts rocking today. I know they can't see it on the stream, but maybe somebody identified it. As we come through, we got lots of cool things. I'm very excited for Diplex. He has got the first strike coming through for Aurelion Sol, a very uncommon choice in terms of what you oftentimes see on this character. You really tend to go with things like the comment for the guaranteed laning power so you don't get kind of run over, but it's the confidence coming through from Diplex that they are not going to be tested in the laning phase by Shochi. They're going to scale for free, and hey, getting that little bit of extra money over and over again throughout the early game is going to help them out quite a bit. So, as we look at this, remember we kind of set up for Fear early on before the series even started, before we got into the draft. Way to beat Cloud9 is by taking down Tomio, right? And once you have that control there, you need to take down another lane as well. In Team Liquid's games, the time that they came the closest to actually beating Cloud9 was when they dove Fake God over and over again. He was 0-4 at one point during that game. Fear can try and do a very similar thing with the early power of this Olaf.
That is often where they like to play to when Faisal is on this pick too, so it wouldn't be a big surprise if that's what they opt for. Plus double melee with Sejuani. Pretty clear angle of attack, and Fake God doesn't even have the flash, took the ghost instead. But grass means that I think Fake God's realizing that I need to have a very safe lane, try and not die as much as possible. You highlighted something that I want to dive into a little bit more before a lot of action happens, Josh, in that this is not a traditional front-to-back comp from Cloud9. Tomio does get ruptured there, but he's fine. So how do you expect these fights to play out then, especially when you factor in things like an ASOL, things like an Annie that can really throw wrenches into the enemy plan?
I mean, that's going to be it. It's on Cloud9, like when the team fights come, to actually create chaos. Is not going to be the kind of thing where every fight is going to be looking the same. If Cloud9 are the ones dictating how these fights are happening, if Fear are dictating how the fights are happening, they're winning like super hard at that point. But Cloud9, they have ASOL who can go over walls. Fiora's had nutty flanks. I think Moose Hater is probably the most famous for it in this league. Tomio can jump over walls. Azel can jump over wall. And he's also been one of our best Annies when it comes to actually finding these different angles to attack. And so if there is one way to describe how all these fights are going to go, it's that they're going to be different every single time. And that's one of the things where Cloud9 tends to thrive, is their adaptability in the fights.
Making chaos, making it tough for your opponent. Now, there's a lot of CC on the side of Fear between the Leona and the Sejuani. I think that's also something Cloud9 will need to keep track of when the fights break out. But for now, in the early game, Perry's looking for a gank mid. Jochi does not land the Rupture onto Diplex. That might have been a flash out of ASOL, seeing the Sejuani wrap around, but is out for right now. No early action. Both junglers satisfied to just look for farm.
Yeah. And I mean, going back towards it, right, we were saying that there is likely going to be no pressure onto Diplex early on. They try and go for a couple of ganks, but I've seen Diplex dodge out on every Rupture so far. At the same time, Faker doing a really good job up here in the top lane, actually out-trading Faisal. It is worth noting that the grasp changes more recently. That's another dodge from Diplex. The grasp changes that have happened have actually weakened Fiora's laning phase. You don't heal quite as much as you would. Instead, you get a little bit tankier in exchange. And so the fact that Fake God, even with that relatively heavy nerf to the way that Fiora actually likes to play the laning phase, is out-laning Faisal on his signature champion. Really good stuff coming out from Cloud9.
Faisal has teleported back into lane, had the longsword and the boots, and also has parry coming up. So Fake God's done well up until this point. But can you continue to survive here? Because it looks like they might go for a dive, depending on how hard Perry wants to commit.
Perry, I mean, we haven't really seen any tests from Perry coming through. Do they actually hit the Scryer's Bloom? They don't, but Shochi does get spotted walking over, and now Perry is on a ward, trying to deny this big wave, but Cloud9 aren't just going to let that happen. Tomio's on his way, and so is Azel.
Oh, the parry comes through, teleport in. Fear are actually trapped here. They got to fight their way out now. Teleport from Diplex into the top lane. Faisal and Shochi on full retreat, but Trevor's joined in. Zena's blade misses, and now Faisal's going to go down. First blood to Diplex. Cloud9 still have health bars to work with here. That's a double kill.
Diplex.
It's falling apart for Fear. Cloud9 get a 4-for-1 trade.
And the breath of light coming out from Diplex gets so much early stacking. That's so much Stardust early on in the game. At this point, Steve, we were saying you needed to find early advantages going into Tomio. You could try and translate them up towards the top side. Fear tried to do that, but they get hard red and shut down.
That is not how Fear wanted to start this game, I can tell you that. This is gonna get out of control very fast now. That is a 2-0-2 Aurelion Soul at 5.5 minutes.
Yeah, with the first strike as well, Diplex is going to be scaling crazy into this game. Again, a great read coming through from Cloud9. That's one of the things that our more veteran teams have had so much success with over the course of the season. Reading the plays of teams that are a little bit less experienced, that are still trying to work on some of the macro things. And Fear, we've normally credited them quite a bit for having some of the best macro around the early Dragons, the early Rift Heralds. But that was something where Cloud9 just ready to go, saying, hey, doesn't look like Fear are setting up for that mid lane gank that they always do. They gotta be trying to do something topside.
And if you were able to read it, you imagine Cloud9 was able to read it. It was about the top focus. Trevor Hex flashes in, gets onto Zazel. No summoners on the Annie. Should mean a kill. Sochi gets the kill credit.
And good stuff coming through from Fear as well. We were asking, they normally go for mid lane ganks to set up for this dragon, but this time going down towards the bottom lane, knowing where their flashes aren't coming through for Cloud9. Fear should be able to pick this up, and Cloud9, I mean, Diplex is level 7, but he doesn't have the super ult yet.
Doesn't yet, but he is still scary. But without a lot of AP purchased yet, he actually will just back off. Here gets the dragon.
Yeah, he's still not strong coming through for this Aurelion Soul, but Fear, they do manage to pick up the first dragon, and typically they follow that up by trying to go for the first Rift Herald. But now, Cloud9, I mean, look how quickly everybody is rotating up. Zazel is basically already here, and a fantastic parry from Fake God actually keeps Perry right in the same spot. But the big thing to watch here is how Diplex is able to get into a fantastic position. You do bonus damage while you're actually in that zone, and there's nobody that can actually do damage to him. He's able to get that first one down, and then it takes him a moment to figure out, like, how do I actually play this fight? But then he just figures it out. He gets another laser down on another player, and at least Trevor gets one back, but it's just so much consistent damage when you are ignoring the dragon.
And also shout out to Zeyzal, flashing the wall, getting the double stun, buying time for the team that they needed. And yeah, that means that Cloud9 are starting this game in a very comfortable spot here. Yeah, the dragon goes over to Fear. They can continue trying to stack those up. But I like that you highlighted, it's not that Asol is powerful now, it's that it's accelerated. It got more stacks, it's getting closer to that Rod of Ages, and then that means by the third, fourth dragon, that's going to be really hard for Fear to actually fight for those.
Yeah, and here we go. Fear going with their standard thing. They playing for the dragon, and they play for the Rift Herald, and already Cloud9 are looking to contest this. Look where Trevor is, look where Zeyzal is. Cloud9, they have more members here.
Cloud9 are walking into the pit. Fake God pushing Faisal off as well. Shoshi can't get over the wall for the Devour. Ooh, Consume not used. And that is a kill picked up for Cloud9.
And Diplex looks to be the one holding the Rift Herald as well. Even more money going over towards the Space Dragon. Fear doing a good job at least, abusing the fact that Zeyzal has been out of lane for such a long time and lost, despite being the rank 1 challenger, is still only an early game Zeri, cannot stand up to the 1v2 at all, and is giving up 4 plates, which is actually a big source of income coming through here for Minui. So a lot of pressure going to be on this AD carry that's been playing so many supports, so much supportive style coming through for Fear. He's going to be the one that we were already highlighting as the major damage source for Fear this game.
You know, I've been spending some time with Ex-Immortals Academy and Maryville coach Jensen Go, and in the words of Jensen Go, Zeri behind doesn't matter because she will come back online. The Aphelios ahead. Now that is something to consider because we talked about Minui needing to be the damage for the team. I just worry that with all the other talking points about Cloud9's draft and how they will play out these fights, that Aphelios is not going to be comfortable here either. You're going to have all these threats coming at you from all these angles, so you're needing to do the damage, but you also have to worry about positioning and keeping yourself alive. It's a tough balancing act for you as an AD carry.
It is. We also got to look at the massive, massive jungle diff. 1,300 gold. Tomio is already up, having been a part of all 5 of his team's kills so far, whereas Perry still struggling to find an advantage. I mean, we were talking earlier about how important it was to actually ban out Perry's Wukong. It has not been nearly as successful on characters like the Sejuani, and we're kind of seeing why. The same kind of direct, instant ability to move around these different team fights has not come out for Perry just quite yet. And for Fear, I mean, with the Rift Herald getting stolen or taken away going up from Diplex, I mean, we still have to look yet again at the fact that they already have a small lead there and will be able to drop that for themselves.
Okay, Zeyzal gets really confident, walks up, has the flash Tibbers, but just gets chunked down. Minui picking up the kill credit, and Shochi's here too, but so is Diplex. That's a Rod of Ages completed. Silenced by Shochi.
It's the big one.
And Trevor locking down under the turret, but Tomio gets onto Minui regardless. Cloud9, they take the fight. Nicely done.
Great stuff. I mean, Zeyzal was a little egregiously far forward there, but at the end of the day, Cloud9 have so many more members, and I didn't think that we were going to be seeing a Skies Descend from the Aurelion Sol this early on in the game, but he gets the massive ultimate. It even hits Minui as they're trying to run back towards their own turret. That's enough damage for Tomio to actually take them down, and Diplex so far ahead because of Cloud9's great reads. Gets a plate there, gonna get at least one more here. Up so much money, up nearly 2,000 gold over Shochi. Aurelion Sol was going to be a problem no matter what this game, and now this game we saw happen when Insanity was able to do it. The David Dwagon diff was too much to overcome. Now it's the Diplex Dwagon diff.
3-0 and 4 on the Aurelion Sol with 2 stacks already of the Rod of Ages. We'll just continue stacking that up. Gonna get to the Ceres very quickly. I didn't actually spot how much money was in their pocket, but I imagine that item will be completed in the next couple of minutes here. Yeah, Zeyzal walks up very confidently, but you have backup, and you already knew that the Aurelion Sol was planning to come down.
Yeah, but again, this is a super chaotic fight coming through for Cloud9, and the big thing is that Diplex has to teleport back down to another one of these fights. And if he doesn't have the Skies Descend, because the actual ult itself doesn't do much. It's really the shockwave that gets the damage necessary to actually kill Manui and slows down Shochi, prevents Perry from walking in. The fact that he's been able to stack up so much Stardust is really game-changing, right? You typically have those about every other fight. To get it off of the first one is a big change for Aurelion Sol.
And he had the perfect back timer too. He backs and then teleports into that bottom lane. Felt like Cloud9, they had all their bases covered. Faisal and Fakeout even went for their own 1v1 top lane while that was happening. It didn't look like anything really came of it. And now Faisal is getting a big shove in, has won the CS trade and some plates. So maybe that's what actually came of the end of that last top lane skirmish if he was able to stick around. So there are some areas where Fear might have, you know, a little advantage here and there, but the big problem is still Diplex.
In order to kind of see where that advantage coming through from Faisal, like one, this matchup is supposed to be pretty good for Olaf early on, but the other big thing is Fakeout got really screwed by the big play from Cloud9, but Tomio looking for a potential dive. Doesn't look like it's going to come through, but when Cloud9 got that total domination fight up in the top side, Fakeout's wave was in the worst possible spot. He got frozen on from multiple waves, and what was super good for the team as a whole, Fakeout is suffering specifically from it, and we will have to see if they actually come back into the game later, because Faisal, they really need to find some advantages around the 1 item mark. They have about 10 minutes of prime relevancy left.
They're trying to shove in up here. Perry's got to be careful. Tomio and Diplex are nearby. Two characters fighting for KDA. Both with 100% KP at 3-0 and 4 means that Perry's got to run. He is not actually able to back up Faisal right now, who is just going to continue to shove and try and get as much done in this lane as possible here before the next action breaks out.
Cloud9, I mean, lost because he's been solo laning so much, actually a higher level than Manui. At this point in the game, has more CS, and so we are kind of seeing, you know, Zeri behind not mattering a whole lot so far, but Fear have done a good job at the very least. They do have 2 dragons to their name, even if the only dragon that Cloud9 has is a space dragon. So,
yeah, what would you rather have? The dragons giving you passive stacks, or the 3-0 and 4 dragon that can 1v5 the enemy team?
It's really going to depend on what happens with the next dragon, right? Because the Cloud Dragon is really, really valuable for Olaf in particular.
True.
And also, like, Leona really enjoys having the Cloud Dragon, or the Cloud Soul. And so it does give Fear an outside chance back into the game if they are able to chain the next couple of dragons in. But it is going to be a tough position, as we do see Cloud9 there faster to the punch, and Chochi doesn't have the flash, is not able to get in.
Yeah, interesting to see the Cho'Gath with the Ghost instead of the Flash. You're not able to go for those big, powerful steals nearly as easily or reliably. Also interesting to note that the Dragon itself, I think, is going to play less of a role for the Soul purposes as the map. Because we got Vi and Sejuani, we got Annie and Leona, all these engagers that now get sped up on their rotations and able to collapse on these lanes way faster as Perry actually takes away a camp, gets onto Tomio. Ooh, that's Flash out of Tomio.
Getting that flash from Tomio, we'll see if that is something that Fear can try and attack later on. Fakeout going very far forward at this point, trying to get this wave frozen. I don't know if he realizes how many people are here.
Faisal's just continually pushing these side lanes. I think Fakeout is playing respectfully to that. We saw Fear having the invade originally. They dropped down a control ward. They are trying to allow Faisal room to operate in this side lane. There is still a tipping point where Fear will be able to come back, but we're not at that point yet, so Fear are trying to make the most out of it. Enable Faisal. Let this Olaf take these turrets. Let this Olaf push in onto Fakeout. They haven't killed Fakeout again yet.
Yeah. You gotta find an opportunity here. Cloud9, the big thing to note for this upcoming team fight, right? We were saying that the Aurelion Sol gets Disguise Descend, the big ultimate. About every other fight, they're gonna have it for both fights at this point with the way that Diplex has been stacking up so effectively. Already has level 12 coming through for this upcoming fight. Is almost on 2 completed items. I mean, they paid for it. They just need to continue stacking it at this point. And Cloud9, I mean, they just have so much damage to play with, and it's going to be on Fear to try and find some inventive way to get onto Diplex, which is not the way that we were kind of expecting the game to really go. We were saying that Cloud9 need to find an inventive way to try and get to Manui, but it definitely feels as though Cloud9 from this position, they're the ones actually calling the shots in terms of where all the positioning is going to be going. We have to remember, Homeo is the one player who needs to not get caught. He's the only person who can stand in front.
Cloud9 walk the Herald in for the purposes of establishing mid-prio. Dragon is on the table now, and with this more standard front-to-back setup, it's going to be even harder for Fear to get onto Diplex like you were highlighting there. He's got the flash. Everybody's together, and they are controlling the choke point to the Dragon. So Fear's Dragon stacking has been halted. Diplex should already have the Seraph stacked up. Is a very powerful Dragon, so wherever he is, Fear need to either kill him first or not be there. As Faisal pops goes for the 1v1 onto Fake God. Riposte used. Grand Challenge issued. Faisal back in. Perry has the Glacial Prison, but does not commit onto the Fiora.
Yeah, I mean, Fake God doing a really good job surviving in these tests that Fear are asking of them and consistently staying alive, not giving over too much. It is down a fair amount in CS, but that's because after the first play, again, he got kind of screwed there. The matchup has not recovered, and Cloud9, I just said, yeah, I mean, keep doing what you're doing, man. This is why Fake God has been the king of weak side so far in the Challengers League. They're still consistently able to at least hold these structures, but we said that so much of the game was going to come around whether or not Cloud9 got this last Dragon. They pick it up. That buys so much more time, at least an extra 5 minutes for Cloud9 to continue scaling. And there is nothing in this game that can match the scaling of Diplex on this Dragon. And, I mean, we haven't even seen an opportunity for Lost to really interject themselves into this game. This is another major scaling element that really has not a ton of threat from Fear onto the rank 1 challenger.
But I'll let you know, Josh, I think we can see it pretty soon. 2 items on Zeri is generally when we start to see this champion participate in team fights, show up, and pop off. And Fear now will be behind on every contest, because from this point forward, if you're Cloud9's composition, you might as well just set up at every objective. They're already near the Baron. Off spawn, Zeri takes it very quick. They can get a pick here, but it's Fear trying to get onto Lost. That's cleansed down. Trevor's low. Tomio locks down. His Manui has gotten to a really safe spot. Oh, but the Skyfall damages everybody from Fear. Now Lost jumping forward, still has the flash. Flashes in aggressively. Cloud9 Lost with a double kill. #1 challenger player also popping off in this game now. Zeri is online.
And look at how big that black hole already is as well. One of the things I love hearing from Dazel is how aggressive Lost is. They love playing together in this way. Lost flashing forward by himself, and now Diplex looking for more.
And Fear had to walk up to see if the Baron was taken, and Cloud9 got the trap set. That is 2 more kills picked up as the solo laners will fall.
I mean, honestly, their sin was being on the same screen as Diplex at this point. Imagine what happens when this guy gets the Rylai's completed. Is already working towards the Shadow Flame as well, trying to end the game as quickly as possible. They're starting the Baron right up at 20 minutes. Cloud9 has absolutely showcased that they had such a good read. But the thing is, as you start looking at this game, Steve, and you start looking at what Fear's coaches are going to be telling their players, you can kind of chalk this one up to like, yeah, this one was a little bit doomed from the outset, right? Based on that early read, where Diplex gets a bunch of money, where everything that Cloud9 did early on, everything else has come from that early decision that Cloud9 made. And even this fight, like, Cloud9, it's not the cleanest fight in the world, but they are so strong at this point. And as Lost starts moving around, there's just not enough left in the tank for Fear to try and actually stop them. They've already used all of their ultimates. They've already used all the tools to try and lock down Tomio in the first place. And Lost, this is when the Zeris can really take off. These are the Zeri moments that we remember.
And Lost is one of those 80 carries, one of those players where he will track the CC on the enemy team. He will say, okay, there's a Leona, there's a Sejuani, there's a Cho'Gath, but I know when it's safe to go in. I know when their cooldowns are up, and I can flash forward to get the kill. And then Faisal and Shochi, unfortunately, I mean, in that position, the game's already in a really rough spot. But they walk up and get punished because Cloud9 stuck around. So now they're fighting into Baron. Cloud9 challengers are knocking on inhibitor turrets.
Yeah. This is the way. Am I Pedro yet? Does that work?
I don't think that works. I like the reference, though.
Okay, we'll work on it. We'll try and find better ways to become Pedro Pascals. We do see Cloud9 taking down the first inhibitor turret of the game. they're going to be able to back away. I mean, it's so early on that they don't necessarily want to try and take this in order to give Minui opportunity to farm it out. It definitely feels as though Cloud9, while they do have a strong scaling advantage, they don't need to give Fear any opportunities to try and take things back. And so Cloud9, they're already setting up, they're taking a bunch of structures, and thank God, I mean, they got their first kill of the game, still trying to find their opportunity to be really strong, but we're already starting to reach the point of Olaf's prime relevancy disappearing, and we were saying that characters like Diplex were not even yet at their full power. This is full power Aurelion Sol. Level 15, one level away from the massive ultimate, almost getting to the spot where you have a ton of extra damage on that ultimate as well. I imagine we're probably going to get the Skies Descend icon very soon next to his name.
Cloud9 Challengers are not looking for the game-ending fight yet. We have seen a couple games end very quickly with that first Baron picked up, but Cloud9 Challengers will instead say, nope, we're just going to get all the gold, take as many turrets as we can, balloon this to an 8.2 thousand gold lead, as they will now catch the bot wave, correct that one, and go for their second dragon of the game, suffocating Fear of all the resources in their own jungle along the way. So game one, Josh, wow, this is, we hyped this up. This was the rematch of the #1 Provisional versus #1 Challengers team. They went 1-1 in the regular season, but so far Cloud9 Challengers have gotten the better of Fear as they are now in the jungle in a very precarious position. That's the engagement. He's got to walk all the way around to be the damage, but while he gets there, Faisal's already down. Trevor's going to fall as well. TP in from Shochi right into the meat grinder. Cloud9 Challengers, everybody, with a double kill to Diplex, will march this wave in, solidifying themselves in game one as the clear victors. That early game did not go how Fear wanted. Cloud9 Challengers capitalizing on it beautifully, getting their A-Soul well ahead, and they will take down the Nexus quickly here, taking game number one in this grudge match.
Yeah, Lost wants a couple more on the backside, but says, all right, we'll actually end the game now. Great stuff coming through from Cloud9. They're a reason why they are our #1 team going into these playoffs. The #1 Challengers team, the best team that we have in the entire league, and they take down the Provisionals like it was nothing.
That was a very one-sided game number one. We can chalk a lot of that up to how the early game went. We mentioned going into it, if you focus Tomio in the jungle, try and get him behind. Other teams have also looked top lane, try and get their top laner ahead of Fake God. Seemed to be the game plan for Fear, but Cloud9 Challengers were ready for that, had the TP play from Diplex, and suddenly that game got out of hand real fast. But we'll give the players time to rest, recuperate, and recover as they get ready for game number two. While we do that, we're going to send it to a short break before we come back with our Rally Cry halftime show after this.